Eliminating habits that do not lead to productivity is something a lot of people struggle with. Eliminating useless habits. How do we do that? I want to talk about that today. There is an excellent book on this particular topic that I'm talking about today called The Power of Habit. Highly recommend it if you're interested in this sort of thing and the science behind habits. It's where I will be crediting a lot of the information that I'll be sharing today too. Habits consist of a loop. There's a habit loop. There's the cue, then there's the routine itself, and then there's the reward. If you have a addiction to, maybe addiction is a strong word. I guess that's what we all say now, addiction to going on our phones. But if you have a bad habit of using your phone unnecessarily, there's the cue, which is the desire to open up your app on your phone, whatever you use. The routine itself, which is probably scrolling on TikTok or wherever, Instagram. And then there's the reward, which is the satisfaction, the little dopamine. And that is the habit loop. Quite simple. When we talk about habits that are not serving us, I think a lot of people tend to think that I just need to stop said habit. I just need to not be doing this anymore. And it's not very effective because we cannot really stop a habit from happening. We have to replace it with something else. And this is where I think people fall off because they just try to stop whatever it is they're doing, the bad habit. I'm just not going to do that anymore. And then that urge kicks in. You want that cue and you don't know what to do. You have to replace the routine itself. Keep the same cue, whatever that urge is that you have to go check on your phone, check on your friends, check your story, other people's, whatever, their content. That is the part that you have to change. The cue remains the same. Okay, I have this urge, but what can I replace it with? What is something that you effectively can replace the routine itself with? I recommend removing the problem from sight. I would recommend deleting the apps that you are trying to avoid. That way it's not there. It's not easy to access. I do this myself. I am unfortunately a victim of this just as any other person is. I don't think I have a problem with it, but I hate when I get caught up in scrolling on my phone, checking social media apps. I think it's useless. It leads me to feel anxious and stressed out. I don't like it. I would love it if everything that was in my feed was productive and useful to me. I don't like getting a bunch of dumb videos and watching low effort content. I would love if I could just filter it out where it's just things that serve me or teach me something or a psychological piece of advice or something, I like a hack. But it doesn't quite work that way. So I find myself skipping through a lot like a lot of people do, and you just end up feeling frustrated. So my advice would be to remove it from your phone entirely if it's a big problem for you. Therefore, the temptation isn't there. And find something that you can replace it with. What can you do every time you have that urge? Pick up a book. You can replace it with writing. You can replace it with... You could replace it with something on your phone as long as it's something that you feel is productive to you and isn't going to lead you to feel frustrated after, because that is the issue for me, is I feel like drained. I don't know. Even if it's 5 minutes or 30 minutes, I just feel icky. It's an icky feeling for me. I don't like it. So anything that you can do on your phone or off your phone to avoid that, I think is great. This is the hard part, I think, for people, is finding that the thing to replace it with. Like I said, I just delete the apps from my phone entirely, so I don't have the temptation. It's not there. So then when I go to open it, I have the cue to like, oh, check. It's not even there, so it's not an option. So it forces me to put my phone down and do something else. But if you can change the habit by inserting a different routine, and then you keep the same reward, the same feeling, right? Of like, oh, I got to do something. So reading could be an alternative. A lot of people don't like to read. Maybe listening to an audiobook would be helpful, or a podcast. Listen to a podcast. Find something to replace the habit itself with, the routine. Keep the same cue and you keep the same reward. I think people tend to make things out to be very complicated in their lives, and that is part of the reason that they feel frustrated and overwhelmed. I focus on simplicity. I'm a very simple person in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, I'm not. But I'm simple in the sense that I focus on having simple habits and tasks for myself to complete. I don't go into my day anymore. I used to. If you talk to anybody who's known me for a long time, they'll tell you that I am a little overachiever type. I set out to do 100 things in a day and overwhelm myself. So I've learned a lot, and I've learned to minimize my expectations of myself, remind myself that I'm human. I can only do so much. And it's better to achieve baby steps every day than to not do anything at all. I think that has been really useful for me, is focusing on the little simple habits. Even going to the gym for me is something that is important for me to stay consistent with. I don't go and stay there for 2 hours and doing some crazy kind of exercises. It's also not it's not my goal to do that. I work out because, well, many reasons. It makes me feel fantastic. It gives me energy. It helps me to not feel depressed. It gives me that hit. I can't even describe what it is. Well, I don't know what it is, scientifically speaking. I don't know, but I know if something is being released into your bloodstream, into your muscles, that just gives you that happy feeling. I don't know if it's dopamine. I don't know what it is, but it's an amazing feeling once you start and you get that pump in for the day. I love that it makes me feel more energized and active. It helps me sleep at night. It also helps with melatonin production, so working out is important for that. There's so many benefits to working out. And a lot of people, when they start out, it's because of weight loss. It's because of being unhappy with your appearance overall. I think that tends to be the main motivator for people to start working out. But once you get into the habit of doing it, you realize there's so much more to it. And you don't want to miss working out because it just makes you feel sluggish, and it reminds me of how you used to feel before you were not very active. My advice is always to focus on a core habit that you have that is causing the most problems for you. Put all your attention to that. What is the thing that's ultimately holding you back? I think for a lot of people, it tends to be one specific thing, like waking up on time. Why did only one come to mind? I don't know, but that is actually a really common one. That is my own core struggle is waking up early. I have never been a morning person. I hate waking up early. But once I'm up, it's great. I get so much done in the morning. I don't really have a problem with going to the gym or being consistent in my habits and all the things I'm trying to do. I just have a problem waking up early enough to have time to do all of it. So once I tackle that one obstacle, everything else becomes easier. It has a ripple effect into the rest of my day, and I don't really have to put very much mental energy towards, oh, I gotta go to the gym, I gotta do this. If I put all my mental energy towards just get up, everything else just kind of naturally follows. And I think a lot of people struggle with this, and we focus all our attention on all these things, all these daunting obstacles. I gotta get this done and this done and this done. But if you really put all your mental focus towards the one thing that you know is going to create the most change, going to have the biggest ripple effect into your day, I think that's worth most of your attention and mental concentration. Things I have found to be very effective in my own life is combining tasks that most people would see as separate. If you are preparing yourself a snack or a meal, let's say you're cutting up an apple and you cut it up and you put the apple on your plate and you go and eat it. You haven't completed the task. Part of the task, if you're peeling your apple or however you decide to eat it, and then you cut it up, you take the core out. In one motion, you should be cutting it and throwing it into the trash. And then you put the apple slices on your plate. And then you rinse everything off. Everything should be in one singular motion. I had to learn this. My aunt taught me this when I used to live with my aunt when I was younger, because it would drive her crazy how I would cook dinner, because I would make a big mess, use everything, and then afterwards there'd be so much to clean up and all the ingredients to put away, instead of doing it as you're moving along, and each time you use something you put it back. So not creating extra work for yourself. So if this is something that you struggle with, is feeling overwhelmed, then that is my advice. It's hard for me to talk about this specific topic because I don't know the person that I'm speaking to right now. I don't know who you are. I don't know where you are at in your life. Maybe you're a very productive person and you like organizing and cleaning. You just struggle with energy and motivation. Maybe you hate cleaning and organizing and being productive and you don't want to do it at all, or you don't know where to start. I don't know. So it's hard for me to talk about this because I have to do it in such a general sense. But the deeper in that you are to a problem or a situation, obviously the more work is going to take to undo it. And the more you're going to have to break it down, I think, because the feeling of being overwhelmed is what I think prevents most people from even starting, because they don't know where to start. It is just too much, and it's easier just to give up or not to do it at all. If it's about cleanliness of your home, I would say to give yourself very, very small tasks to achieve. Focus on one room at a time. And if it's really, really bad where one room is too daunting, then just focus on one thing. Just pick up the trash. Get a big trash bag to collect all the trash. After you've done that, then collect the dishes and then collect the clothes. And then so do everything separately and focus on one thing at a time. You can make it into a game, kind of treat yourself like you're a little kid. Sometimes we got to do that. Turn some music on, turn your favorite show on. And after that, I think is the issue, because people can get into this motivated state where they feel like, okay, I can get all this done now. I've been slacking on all this stuff. But how do you keep up with it, right? That's really the key, is staying on top of things before they get out of hand. Because once things get out of hand, you're going to have to wait until you feel that burst of motivation to take care of it. And I think it's far easier to stay on top of things every day so you don't get to that point. Everything in your home should have a space, a spot where it belongs. Your keys should always be hung up or placed in the exact same spot every single day, no exceptions. Pretty much no exceptions for every item that you use on a regular basis. It always belongs in the same spot. That way you're also saving time because you're not looking for things every day. Disorganized people stress me out. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful kind of way. It stresses me out to watch people who never know where their things are. They're constantly losing their things. And I just look at them and I go, you don't have systems in place. You have to create systems that are effective for you, that work for you. Otherwise, you're going to create chaos in your life. Everything belongs in the same spot. Put things back where they belong. If you start to overlook something as simple as that and say, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal, or, oh, I just ate this bowl of cereal, let me just put the bowl in the sink, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal, but it will become that big of a deal when things start to pile up. So if you take care of things right away, get in the habit of doing things in one motion, it becomes much easier. I think laundry and dishes are the trickiest because they are a constant that you have to deal with. Those are the only real problems that I have. I don't really have things laying around my house. I don't have clothes, dirty clothes at least. Like, they always go in the hamper. So I don't just have, like, people just have socks laying everywhere. And I'm like, what? Oh, this is why I live alone. I just can't deal with people's habits. I want to kind of reiterate here by saying that I think people focus on, I need habits, right? I need healthy habits, and I need to get into a routine. You are in a routine. You are in a habit right now. Everybody is. We are creatures of habit. Most of us function on habit. Even if that habit is chaos, it is still a habit that you've created. If you look at your everyday life and look at how you do things, if you're always late, if you show up late to work every single day, and you have a mess every single day that you leave behind, all these things that you're doing that you're like, oh, I need habits, I need routine, or you do have those things. They just aren't productive habits. They aren't healthy habits that are serving your life. You have to change the habits. It's not about eliminating them and stopping something, say, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's about switching it and changing it into something that works for you. And stop listening to people who aren't serving you. I think there's this unnecessary amount of fighting going on, especially online. Like, oh, look at this person. They show their picture perfect home and everything is staged and it looks perfect. That's so unrealistic. It's not. It's not unrealistic for somebody who prioritizes that. But if that's not a priority for you, don't even get hung up on that. Don't even go, oh, well, ignore it. That doesn't work for you. You don't want a staged home. You don't want a perfect home. Then don't focus on that. Focus on what it is that you want to have. What is the outcome that you are seeking? What do you want your home to look like? What do you want your everyday life to look like? What are your end goals in your fitness routine? What is your end goal in your healthy eating habits, or whatever it is? Focus on you. Ignore all the noise. Ignore all the people who are making you feel or look bad somehow. Everybody has their own struggles. Somebody who has a perfectly neat and clean home doesn't mean that they don't have their own demons and their own problems that they're working on. Cleanliness might actually be their way to cope, or that they're able to focus on something. We all have different standards for what is clean and what is organized. It's, again, focusing on what will serve you best. Please let me know if there's a specific area that you're struggling in or a specific problem that you're trying to tackle. I'd be happy to give some advice and help you out. It's hard for me, like I already said, to do this because I don't know exactly what people are struggling with. I'm trying to keep this in a general sense to make it applicable for a lot of people. And foot is falling asleep. But again, focus on the habits that are going to serve you best. Focus on your goals. What are you trying to achieve in your life? Don't look at Susie down the street or Bob, who you follow on social media. It's so unproductive to focus on things and people who aren't serving you. Listen to those that you want to be like. Take advice from people who have succeeded in things that you're trying to do. If you're trying to become wealthy, listen to people who have become wealthy and have succeeded and are successful in that. If you're trying to listen or become a cleaner person, listen to people who are very clean and have clean, healthy habits. For myself personally, I have very high standards in my house. I'm very particular, and I know that doesn't work for everybody. I am well aware of that. I don't think I live in any kind of delusion that this is normal or expected. I would never expect anybody to have my standards of living, but it works for me. It works really well for me, and that's all that matters. So find what works for you. Find the areas that you are trying to fix and focus your attention on that. And focus your attention on changing habits. You're not creating them. You're not stopping or eliminating old habits. You're simply switching things around. You're just making tweaks. You're changing the routine itself. Keep the cue and the reward. Just change the routine itself. Replace it with something else. If you bite your nails, every time you go to bite your nails, pick up a stick of gum. Find something that you can replace the habit with. Self-care is productive. A lot of us feel guilty for taking time for ourselves and unwinding, decompressing. Those things are productive. When they become not productive is when we overindulge. And there is no rule or amount of time that anyone can sit and say, well, this is too much. We don't know. Nobody knows that. But what we do know is that we have an internal intuition that tells us what we need to know. Most of us need to become more in tune with ourselves and focus on our own intentions in life and our own problems, our own goals. So many of us are so focused on everybody else. And this is a big part, I want to say the reason, but a big part of the reason that we are all so stressed out and anxious and unhappy is because we compare our lives to other people. Comparison is the thief of joy. And when we're looking and focusing on all these other people, it makes us unhappy because we're thinking they're doing so much more. They have all this stuff. This person's prettier than me. They have a better body than me. Oh my gosh, they have way more money and they can go here and I can't do that. And you're living your life side by side, someone that you might not even know. You don't even know this person. You have maybe no idea what they're going through. Especially, I said maybe because if you're comparing yourself to some influencer or somebody you don't know their battles. You don't know what they're going through. We all have our own fights that we're fighting. That's why I tell people be kind to others, be respectful, because you just don't know what someone is dealing with. And if they are just trying to survive the day, you have no idea. But maybe their way of dealing with it is by making their life look perfect. Is that healthy and useful? No, but it's reality. It's what people do. We all like to create a facade. We all like to make things look pretty. When we were kids, I don't know, this is probably still a thing. I was always told, oh, the guests are coming over, time to clean the house. And as an adult, I find it to be hilarious because it feels like such a phony lie. To be like, now that people are coming over, let's clean everything to make it look like we live in a clean home. which I find so funny because I clean my home for myself. I want it to be clean for me. If someone says they're coming over, I might have, a little laundry to put away or whatever, some normal everyday tasks to tidy up. But I don't go into like a deep cleaning mode of like I have to do all this stuff. It already is that way. I keep things up. I keep up with things. Sorry. I keep up with things. I have routines in place, and my life isn't for display. I don't live my life in a way so people can go, "Oh, wow, Nikki, this is so impressive. You do this and this." I don't care. I have to do what works for myself. I have to impress myself. I have to wake up with myself every day. I have to go to sleep with myself every day. So my focus is on me in a very narcissistic sounding way. I don't mean it to sound narcissistic, of course. I'm saying that as a joke. But we have to do what works for us. That doesn't exclude being kind, respectful towards others, and focusing your attention on them and caring for them. But we cannot compare to others. We cannot live to impress other people. That's useless. You have to impress you. You have to be happy with you. That is my ultimate advice on this topic. Focus on yourself and what you need. And yeah, that's it really. We are in a new year. It's 2024. A lot of people are focusing on change and starting new routines and getting into the gym, getting their New Year's resolutions started. And I advise you in this season, if that is where your mentality is at, to again just focus on things that you can actually achieve. Don't set goals that are impossible unless your goal is, because sometimes I'll do this, I'll set a goal that's I know maybe way too high, but in the back of my mind I know if I don't reach it, as long as I'm working toward it, I'll be satisfied. But don't set expectations, is what I'm saying, on yourself to achieve X, and you don't, and you end up unhappy and you throw your hands up in the air and walk away and say, "Oh, well, I can't do anything," right? It's going to take time. We are very impatient. We've become the microwave world where everything feels like it needs to come instantly and happen instantly. It doesn't work that way. It takes time. Change takes a lot of time, and you have to get used to that uncomfortability. That's not a word. Uncomfortable state. That is the beginning of changing things. I also say that start seeing change as a reward, not as a punishment. Ultimately, it's leading you to where you want to be. And if it's not, then you have to relook at what you're doing. Why are you doing it? Are you doing things just to impress others? That's not really a deep-rooted value to have in your life. Figure out what your values are. What do you value in your life? What's important to you? Do you want to live a big life, extravagant life? Do you want a simple life where you just want, to be happy and, tend to your garden and your cats? Or do you want this big, crazy life where you want to create change in the world and you want to be a world leader? I don't know. I don't know who you are. So figure out what it is you want to do. So many of us are aimlessly wandering about with, "Oh, well, I should be doing this, and I should be." Should you? Should you be doing all these things that you're saying? First of all, ask yourself that. Should you be doing these? I should be doing this. Focus on what is important to you. Live an intentional life. Live with intention. I am doing this because of this. I'm trying to do this because of this. And identify it. And not because your parents said so. If you're an adult, if you're a child, it's a little different, of course. But if you're an adult, it's not about pleasing your parents. You can respect and love your parents and still say, "I'm going to do what's best for myself." That doesn't mean equal or equate to disrespect. We have to change that narrative. It's not disrespectful to your family or your parents to follow your path in life, to do what is best for you. You can still honor and love them deeply and say, "I have to do what's best for me." That is my advice to you as we are going into this new year. Focus on yourself. Where are you going? Get really clear with your goals, the clearer we are with our goals. There's so much background noise. I don't know what's being picked up on the mic. Focus on your goals, set those intentions, and figure out if what you are currently working on is really serving you. Is that really what you want? Is that really the life that you want to lead? And focus on simplicity. It doesn't have to be this major life-changing thing that you have to go through. Sorry, I'm like saying things in the most convoluted way. It doesn't have to be anything crazy is what I'm saying. Just focus on simple little habits. Go to the gym or work out consistently. Just go on a walk every day. Just start dancing or start playing tennis, whatever you enjoy. Find something that you know that you'll be able to do consistently. Otherwise, it's useless. What's the point about saying, yeah, I'm going to do all this stuff, and you have no interest in doing it, and then you don't end up doing it anyway? That's unproductive. That's silly. I wish you lots of good luck in this new year. I hope that you are able to start working on all the things that are going to bring you joy and peace. I wish you nothing but success and happiness. Please take care of yourself, and we'll talk next time.